Hey everybody, and welcome to the A.C.E Football Academy. Coach Hamilton alongside Coach Dunham. As always, we got a really fun episode tonight. But first, as always, we'd like to thank our sponsor, A.C.E Car Wash, locally owned and operated here in Richmond, Kentucky. Please make sure you go by and see them for all your car washing needs. Last week, Coach, a couple weeks ago, we dove into everyone's favorite conversation, playing time. It is the cause of many headaches for coaches, players, parents. It is the cause for many tears between coaches, players, and parents. Yeah. And our last episode that we released, you and I kind of gave a coach's perspective on playing time and kind of what we look for, what you and I look for, and how we determine playing time. But it is very clear that you and I are amateurs. We don't know what we were talking about. So we have, luckily enough, a special guest this evening, Center Women's College coach, Jay Hoffman. Jay, thanks for being here.
Appreciate you having me, giving me the hard topic.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. I actually was lucky enough to, Jay and I have been messaging, Coach Hoffman and I have been messaging over email the past several weeks because I got to go and play in his 3v3 tournament. For our social media followers, you saw lots of pictures from that after Sunday. Coach, I will just go out and tell you, I don't know what you expected from that event, and I don't know what your high school side of that looked like, but from the middle school side of things, I had not even left the center campus before my phone started blowing up from the 6 girls that I brought in, and they were just like, hey, we need a revenge tour. We got to do that again. When's his next event? So great job by center on a really fun event.
Right. It was. The whole morning consisted of high school. We had 10 teams come in, and the quality was very good. And then we opened it up in the afternoon for 14 middle school teams to come in, and that was just as fun. I think next year we may experiment with trying to run them simultaneously so some of the younger kids can watch the older kids and vice versa. Might be one change we do, but we were very, very fortunate that Center just finished Champions Hall, which is this new building we have that has a state-of-the-art track and turf facility inside. And I was just kind of thinking outside the box. It would be awesome to use our media from past camps to use signups and just see if we can get this off the ground and have a 3-on-3 tournament. Make it fun, allow our players to interact, do some reffing and some ball fetching and that type of stuff. But the big thing was just to bring kids in on a Sunday and play. And I feel like we accomplished that and did it very well.
You absolutely did. Again, it was a ton of fun. My girls are already itching to go back, Coach. We got beat in the we went 5-0-1 in the round robin play. All we had to do was win our last round robin game, and we were going to play in the final. And we got beat, and it was. I mean, my girls were. They had a great time, but they were unhappy that we did not get an opportunity to win a center college soccer T-shirt. So
right.
So
the Dominators ended up dominating. That was this team that signed up, and good for them. But I was just glad to give the players a lot of time together and playing. And one of the things that we looked at going in was, is it too much? So we try to have a little bit of break in between some games. Then we try to make sure that the way we staggered the sides, that you had an off game. And so I think we accomplished that.
No, 100%. And as someone who attended that event and coached in that event, I thought it was really, really well done. I thought it was a smart move to the 12-minute kind of championship games. But great job, Coach. Let's dive into some playing time.
Yeah, we've been discussing this for, our whole coaching lives. I think you're in the same situation here when it comes to playing time. So we want to throw things in your end. You've been dealing with soccer your whole adult life. I'm sure you played when you were a kid as well. So playing time has been an issue you've discussed on both sides of the platform there. So when it comes to playing time, what are 3 things that you feel like when discussing playing time, what should you consider in that process when you're talking about playing time and the player, the relationship between the coach and the player? What's your viewpoint at the college level?
Coach, I'm going to just, for those of our listeners, we are talking about a moment where playing time is no longer equal. We're getting into that, U14, U15, U16 type of area, and then, of course, a U at Center College. So I think it is safe to say, and Coach Hoffman, you and I have not discussed this off air, but I think it's safe to say that we all agree that at the youth level, everybody should be playing. And what that looks like may be different, but for our listeners, we are starting to get into that time frame where playing time is not equal. And so that's kind of where we're going with this question.
Right. Well, it's a great question because if you look at our roster, we do carry a big roster. It's not because of what we're expected to do. It's just, when we go out to the recruiting process, we want to bring in players that mirror the standards of Center and our program. And that's to have high expectations both on and off the field. And when players come here, they really fall in love with the facilities, the team, the competitiveness, and the level that we play at. But, I think the first and foremost thing you have to do, and this is before you even start any practice, is build the communication and be honest with the players. There's two things that we always tell our players that we will promise. We'll promise opportunity and we'll promise honesty. And the rest is really up to them. Now, there are some players that when we recruit, we tell them that if you were at Disney, you're going to get the fast pass and you're going to go right into the ride and get on it, and it's going to be awesome. And then we tell players that, listen, you're going to have to wait in line, and it could be a long while in that line, but you hope that you're waiting in line for Space Mountain or something like that, and not like a dud ride, but you want to get a great ride at the end and have your experience. But if there's advice that I would give a coach, a player, the three things that I would suggest is, number one, you have to maximize the week. We go by an acronym, TNDO, take no days off. You can't just come in and play well one day and one not the other. You have to take advantage because most teams consist of a top group, a middle group, and a bottom group. And those top few players, those are your all-region players. Those are your all-American players. That's your footwork. That's your team you can rely on each day to hold the standards high. Then you got those middle group that are fighting for 4 or 5 positions. And those players circulate and they get opportunities. And if they maximize those opportunities, they sure can get some time or vice versa. And then you have the players that just need time. They need time to maybe watch more film. They need time for more repetitions. They need time for just to learn the system of play a little bit better. But, those would be the first thing that I would say is going into is like you have 3 tiers. You hope your A kids are doing great, but then you got to give opportunity. The way we set up practice is on Monday and Tuesday, teams are created off of their strength training. So Coach Carlson, our strength coach, tests the players for their vertical jump, their fly time, maybe the yo-yo test. And then I ask him to report how they did from top to bottom. And top 8 are on one team. Next 8 are on the next team. Next 8. So it's not based on level. It's really based on how fit you are doing. And your job on those next 2 days when we play small-sided or when we're training is to be seen. Be seen. Do something special. Because it's not all the A players are with A players and B players with B players. We're intermixed, and it's really, really important that you're bringing the talent to your level. And I think that what makes our practice unique is that's the opportunity that we're speaking of. And then the final thing that I would definitely say is you got to fight as a player. You got to fight for your minutes. So come in, talk to the coach. If you can't come into the office, take time, 15 minutes out of the day, and fight for your minutes in the office, how can we expect that you're going to fight for your minutes on the field? So you ask the tough questions, ask to do video, ask to do that, because most coaches are going to reward those kids that are engaged. And if you come in and say, I think I deserve this, I need this, yeah, you're probably going to get an opportunity, and then you got to make the best of that opportunity. So that would kind of be my 3 advice that I would give any player that's having trouble getting on the field. It just can't just show up and say, "Hey, I deserve it." Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, I want to back that up. We talk about building those relationships, and I think we've agreed on that in the past, regardless of age, is having those conversations. So at your level, are your conversations one-on-one on the field, or are you setting time aside to have a one-on-one in your office and saying, hey, here's where you are right now, here's where you need to be kind of conversation? How does that get separated with those players?
Right. You talked a little bit about maybe like a depth chart. And what we try to do is steer away from comparing yourself to other players. What we want to try to do is say, what are you doing well and what do you need to improve on? Now, we will say, like, all right, hey, where do you think you fall as far as the center mids? And why you fall there? What is it that you're backing up? Can you show me some footage maybe of a practice that we had during preseason where you did something really, really well? A lot of times we'll get players that come in and they kind of have that, but I try really hard, coach, and I'm in shape and I'm fit. And here's the thing, at college level, everybody tries hard. That's your DNA. That's not an excuse anymore to get you on the field, because you hope that's instilled in your players that everybody works hard. So you got to bring something else. One of the pieces that I think a lot of coaches see in players is their body language and confidence. We
Yes.
spend a lot of time talking about body language and how they hold their disposition. And we also talk a lot about confidence. Those fast pass players that come in as freshmen, last year was Lexi Cronenthal. Came in as a freshman, and her preseason was so good. We were asking her to demo stuff. She came in confident. She came in ready. She came in fit. And when you can come in with those 3 characteristics, you're going to make magic happen. It's when you start doubting yourself, or you didn't do something along the line, or you're asked to be able to hit a 40-yard ball and you can't do that because you haven't practiced it. That's when you start kind of shrinking into your shirt and you're wishing, like, man, I wish I would have done more. But you live and learn.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, because it's going to be a big emphasis for me with one of my club teams, and this is going to be a personal question, but to help me out, we had a pretty rough fall, and so I know coming into spring that our confidence is not where it needs to be. And so one of my focuses during winter training and leading up to our kickoff in 2 weeks is that self-talk that you just kind of alluded to, that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for me as a coach, or even, if you were speaking to a player, how to, because, when you, especially at 14, 15, 16 years old, sometimes that self-talk is really hard, and it is easy, in my view, to self-talk negatively,
Mm-hmm.
especially when things aren't going great. But really, that self-talk when, hey, things aren't going great, but I'm going to talk myself into them being better.
Right. I think it's a process where it's a trust process that you have with your player and your coach. My daughter's a swimmer, and right now, she's trying to lower times. And this whole season, she's done an amazing job dedicating herself to become a better swimmer. Are her times dropping like she would want? They're not necessarily, but her spirit is a lot better. It's the same thing with studying. You're going to get some kids that we have in our team that just open the book and they learn it right away. And then there's others that have to really work over and over and over, and they still don't get the good grade. I think as parents, as coaches, as adults, the message we can be telling our kids is do as much as you can and be proud of what you're doing. So that way, when it comes time for you to perform, you don't have that emptiness in your stomach that says, I didn't do what was expected. You have that time when you step on the block, or when you step out on the field, or when you step into the classroom, you're said, I'm prepared, I'm ready. And if you're prepared and ready, you're ready to go. And that should carry the confidence on and doing some great things.
Yeah, I wrote all that down, so thank you. um, we kind of just talked about this, but let's put you in a position here where a player has come to you and she has said, "Hey, coach, you asked me to get better at first touch, and I feel like I've gotten better. And coach, you asked me to get better at anticipation on the field, and I feel like I've gotten better at that, but I'm still not seeing minutes.
Uh-huh.
And how do you handle that conversation? Do you throw more things at them, like, okay, now go work on this and this, or is it more of that you kind of alluded, or you didn't allude to, you said promise honesty? Do you kind of say, hey, look, right now you are doing everything I ask, but so is Chris, and Chris is just better than you?
Mm-hmm. I think it's got to be the second one that you just said and communicating that. I don't think this generation needs false hope. I think we've done too much of that, honestly, in a sense that people come expecting too much. You set up your practices so that your A kids compete against B kids and B kids compete against C kids. I don't like it where you have the group over there and then you work with the group here in separation. If they're good enough to be on your team and you're going to take them, they're good enough to be able to perform in front of you daily. Now that kind of changes with high school because I know you have your JV and you have your varsity, and it's a little bit set in stone, and you have that, man, I didn't make it. Or better yet, ECNL and RL. We get that all the time. And we're recruiting the heck out of a player right now, but she's a regional league player. But we tell her we much rather have a regional league player playing 90 minutes, leading the team, acting as that captain, than playing on the ECNL, being a reserve player that plays maybe 10, 15 minutes a half and not having that leadership role. So it's kind of settling into where you are, but the honesty part is important. There's other things you can do at practice that we've done before. So let's take maybe 2 weeks in a row, you're not scoring the goals that you think you are. You started the same lineup. Nothing's changed. So throw a wrench, throw a curveball in the game. And we did this back in the day. Mary Taylor Kersey, MT. We said, okay, ladies, today we're going to go a 4v4 side tournament. And everybody's going to play the same amount of games. Whoever has the most assists and most goals at the end, assist is 1 point, goal is 2, those top 3 players start. And, well, lo and behold, 2 of the forwards that naturally start. The other one was MT. And at the end of practice, I just went up to MT. I said, hey, results are in. Call your parents. You're starting tomorrow. And that gave ownership to that practice. And that gave that one person that's been sulking all the time and like, why aren't I playing? That was an opportunity for you to stand out. That was an opportunity for you to get on the field. So sometimes you got to be creative.
Yeah, so let's look at the other side of that. That's a coach's way of handling a situation. Let's look at the player side of it. Do you put expectations on your players saying, hey, if you're going to request a one-on-one conversation with me, you need to, A, don't talk to me about playing time, or is it B, you better come prepared because I'm going to be very honest with you, and you got to be prepared to be honest with me. Do you have the expectations with your players, or do you just kind of let them come in and try to be adults about the situation?
As they get older, it goes back to going into the office and fight for your minutes. Like I said, if you don't fight for your minutes in the office, you can't fight for them on the field. I think the one thing as they get older is embrace the communication. Be excited for it. Communication is the strongest bond you have with your players. And if you break that bond because you're aggressive or you come at them too hard or you don't let them speak and say their minds, you've really ruined that opportunity and that trust to come in and have those difficult conversations. I've been on both sides, not proud of, a conversation here and there. And there's been a time when I've done it on the field and I picked up the phone that night and called the player and just say, I owe you a big apology. We're all human. We all are getting intense at the moment at some point, but embrace the conversation. And I think the more that you listen and you hear them, the better off that relationship is going to be. Because it could be end of the year, your starting mid or your starting forward goes down like we did, going into our most important game, girl bums her knee, tears her ACL. It's next person up. Who is that person? And for us, we were kind of looking at 2 or 3 players to say, hey, you're going to be now a 60, 70-minute player. And it was Riley Gibbons that stepped up and said, Coach, I'm ready. And a lot of that was because of her effort and attitude throughout the whole timeline. You know, she wasn't disappointed that she was on the bench. She was taking it in and learning. She wasn't disappointed that, you know what, I only got 15 minutes in. She was like, I'm honored to get those 15 minutes. But an injury happens. It's next person up, and you hope you have that person that's embraced that work rate day in, day out, so that fitness-wise, technical-wise, they're ready to roll.
I love that that piece you just said. I'm honored to play. Whatever minutes you're going to put me on the field, I'm honored for that. Let's talk to coaches for a minute here. We just kind of talked about the player. Let's talk to coaches a minute here, because we've all had this happen to us, and I even think it happens on the men's side of things too. But you know, it takes a lot for a lot of players to get up the nerve, for lack of a better term, to go and talk to a coach at any level. Um, Especially a coach who, like myself, where I am coaching, and we'll talk about parents in just a minute. But for me, you know, I kind of say in my parent meeting, you better not, the parent, mom and dad, better not be the first person I hear from. I better hear from the player first. And so, how do you handle that moment when a player has clearly worked up the nerve to come to see you, and they're like, "Hey, coach, can I talk to you for a minute?" Whether it's after a practice or after, you know, before a practice, and then immediate tears because they're so nervous, they're so they're so worked up, and all they want to know is, you know, and they ask the right thing. I always tell my players, please don't ask me, why am I not playing? You know, phrase that question as, what can I do to get more playing time? Because that just changes the whole connotation of the conversation. But, you know, they choke that out and they're crying. And so now we not only have a playing time conversation, but now we kind of have a therapy conversation at the same time.
Oh, you said it best. Therapy is, I keep a toilet paper roll in my drawer because tears are always happening in offices.
Yeah.
I cry too when we talk about some
Oh,
player
absolutely.
and she's emotional and she's excited about what you say. You know, I've got a soft heart too. And it happens all the time. And I think the best thing that you can do is listen. But the other thing that you got to try to do is just say, hey, we need to think about this program as center, and it's made up of individuals. But when you step into this program, you automatically need to learn to put yourself second and your teammates first. So let's sometimes step out of your viewpoint and let's look at it from a coach. Let's step away from the coach and let's look at it from a player. And that's the same advice I would give to a coach too, or a parent, is see the program through other people's eyes. We do a lot of communication without speaking. So when players step in, we have a handbook that covers a lot of these questions. I was an elementary school teacher for 8 years. The one thing that I learned was you have to have rituals and routines. You have to, or you're not going to make it out of the day. Those second graders are going to make your hair stand up and your tie is going to be undone and you're going to be like, I can't do this tomorrow. But if you have rituals, routines, you can orchestrate the best classroom and the best lesson on the field. Another thing that we have in our book is the 22-2 rule. 22 hours of the day, it's about our players. It's about them. They know if they need a call, if they need something, we're there. They know if there's a boyfriend problem, a girlfriend problem, something that happened in drama, something that's going on in the classroom. We're there. And so for those 22 hours, it's about them. But do not cross that line when you get on the field and make it about yourself. So playing time's not talked about. Issues are, it is about center soccer. And since we've instilled that rule, it's been awesome. Especially after a game, because you're going to have some people that are sad that they didn't play, but they better learn to fake it, and they better learn to be happy because, you walk off and you get a great win 2-1. A coach shouldn't feel sad because they didn't get this person in. It should be, we won 5-1 and we got to play a lot of players. And so, but 22-2 rule is a good rule to have.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And I kind of want to discuss that a little bit. Earlier you mentioned today's kids, I don't want to say things are handed to them, so to speak, but they're more comfortable of having an expectation of how things should go. How often are you dealing with incoming freshmen that have had, quote unquote, things easier for them? They've been the top player on their team. They're a straight A student. They've been glorified everywhere they go, but they come into the college and it's like, whoa, everybody's at my level or better, and I'm not used to this. And maybe they kind of bow down to that as if they've been defeated, or how often do you see players say, I'm taking that as a challenge? So how is it dealing with kids in today's world where things are a little bit different?
Right. So I think two things. One, you have to have stories. And I'm always about proof or telling stories. I'm a story guy. I love story time with Jay. Maybe it's that second grade teacher that comes out in me. But you have to have stories to back it up. And I'll give you an example. Mills Mullen. She was an All-American for us, graduated last year. I think she was Gatorade Player of the Year out of West Virginia, if not Female Athlete of the Year out of West Virginia. She came in and probably played 34 minutes as a freshman. And all of a sudden, she played behind Alana Hughes. Well, Alana was a two-time All-American for us, scored 24 goals, 22 assists, broken every record book, and Mills got the chance to watch her, to learn. And then when Mills gave Alana a little bit of break, Alana, we got on the field and it was, hey, Mills, get under my wing. Come on, let's go. And it was a great relationship. So try to embracing relationships. Lindsay Carr, she's a junior for us right now. She didn't play a lot of minutes her freshman year. She was a role player. Sophomore year, she fought. She became first team All-Region. This year, she's an All-American for us. So part of, though, is the coach's communication. And so for a player maybe coming in, like, we did well with the school assumption. So you have a player that comes in there that's used to playing 90 minutes. Maybe you got to ask that question is, where did you play your freshman year? How many minutes? And some of these kids go back to, well, I played JV. Okay. So you learned a lot as a JV player. You didn't get the fast pass, but now you want that here? Well, we're a top 25 team. We've got a lot of championships that we've done here. And so if you're going to come in as a freshman, you better be really, really, really good. If not, embrace what Mills did. Embrace what Lindsay did. Learn. And when your name is called, perform. Because I think we as coaches should really try to spend more time about the leadership roles. We went and sat in with a player last year who's ended up going to come and play for us this year. She's going to be a freshman this year. But when we did an in-house visit with her at her kitchen table, we talked about, this was her junior year in the spring. Our conversation was, what are you doing now as a leader for your program? And she asked, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, when you lost that game, you're now the leader. You now are the seniors. This is your team. People are looking to you for leadership. And I think if we spend a lot more time on leadership, on recognizable moments, at center we call magical moments, we can bring out those stories to help maybe offset some of those problems that could come. So a player may think, well, Mills didn't play a lot, so there's hope.
Let's switch gears to, as coaches, playing time is our first favorite topic. parents is our second favorite topic.
Uh-huh.
So I've always been intrigued by this question, especially with college coaches. Just be honest with this, coach. How often do you deal with parents as the head coach at Center College?
I wouldn't say you don't deal with it a lot, but you deal with it. I always think, how would I want somebody talking to my daughter? Or how would I want somebody coaching my daughter? And I've learned that lesson on a guy from Rice who I took a license, or I was getting my C license, and he said, "All right, guys, I'm not going to look at this handbook and connect you on this. My child was just born. I'm going to see, like, if I would want you as my daughter's coach, you've passed." And I thought that was the best bit of advice. But dealing with parents, I think first and foremost, you really need to try to get to know the parents as much as you can in the recruiting process. So for club coaches, getting to know the parents in an off the field type atmosphere. The second thing is communicate, over communicate. I just sent out number 10, I think, and maybe it was 9 or 10. That was 10 emails that I've sent the team parents in the fall. So first week of preseason, hey, everything's good. Your players may sound a little tired. If there's anything you need from me, please talk to me. We just lost a bad game. Hey, tough game. This is what we could use. A little bit more support. This is what we're getting ready to do. Kind of communicating with them to show like, hey, he cares or she cares. Building that relationship. So when you have the hard conversation about playing time, it's there. And we've had those. And they're hard. They are hard. But again, I think it's the opportunity piece. This day and age, Veo and all the computer stuff that is out there, you can tape a practice and kind of just say, hey, this is your child at practice if you really needed proof. But I don't think you need to go that route. I think it's the trust factor and the communication and that hopefully offsets future problems.
This is kind of an off-topic question here, but we're in a new age of technology and the on-field cameras. Do you ever live stream your practices so parents can be like, oh, I would love to watch my girl work one day?
I would love to. And if I was a Division I and we had our own kind of SID for our program, or if we had somebody, but with everything kind of advancing, there might be a way where a manager could take on and do that. The other year during COVID, Jessica Chisley, former assistant of mine, fantastic coach, great leader, graduated from Center. Can't say enough about what she did for our program. During the COVID year, parents weren't allowed on campus.
Oh, yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard on the players, but it was hard on the parents. So what we did was we mic'd Jess and I up, and we played an 8v8 competition, and Jess and I were mic'd, and we practiced and talked through the mics, and then we had players come on, and individually we had questions coming in. That was a ton of fun. We got a lot of great feedback. So that could be something that we were trying to do again. I'd love to do that in preseason. Honestly, I don't think that'd be that hard.
Well, and I think
the game.
Yeah, and I think that just goes back to what you started our conversation with just building those relationships across the board. And when we give parents and even players the opportunity to see those moments or to see themselves, hey, this is what look at you at practice. It is clear that you're not giving your best effort. It is clear that you're over here goofing off, or you're taking when I said, hey, be back on the field in 90 seconds and it's been 3 minutes and you're just now jogging back onto the field or walking back, it's clear, So I think that, again, this is way off topic, but the whole social media aspect of where not only soccer, but sports in general are going, they can be dangerous, but I also think it can be really, really positive if done the right way. And I loved the mic'd up idea. Actually, my team is already like, Coach, you should mic us up. And I'm like, I don't know if I feel comfortable with doing that.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you got to embrace it. It's here, but you have to have parameters. We one of our captains actually, her job is all social media, um,
Hmm.
thank you support, letter writing, administration type stuff behind the scenes. Um, but Jordan Zach, um, she was that captain last year, and she put together this video. We have an annual tradition when we go on the road. We have a big splash contest in the hotel. And so the freshmen versus sophomores and juniors and seniors, you walk out songs and everybody's got to be involved. And on TikTok, that one has over 650 some thousand views. So it's kind of neat. And Jordan's like, I did that. I'm like, you
Yeah,
did.
absolutely. Well, Coach, before we let you, first of all, we appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah,
Before
for sure.
we let you go tonight, I will just say Center has a brand new, we all heard us talk about it earlier, a brand new indoor facility. It is beautiful. The campus there, that was actually the first time I really think I've been to campus. I've had players, I've had teams that go to your camps and have loved it. They all like it. They all come back fired up. So you guys do a great job there. But coach, take a couple minutes and tell our, maybe our eighth graders, our freshmen that are listening, why should they consider Center College?
Okay, first of all, um, it is an amazing stepping stone for your life. It is a school of excellence, a personal education, extraordinary success. So if you want something that's academically going to be challenging, rewarding, professors are fantastic. They care. It's a neat school. You mentioned on the facilities, they are very, very impressive. It's been neat. Late 90s, we started to really take the whole campus in just one building at a time, renovate and rebuild, knock down, rebuild. And the piece that they just finished with the indoor center, the 50-meter pool, the Olympic sized pool, the weight room, we argue some of the best facilities in the state. We always talk to our recruits. There's Kentucky, there's Louisville, and then there's Center. And I think most Division I coaches would probably agree when they walk around and see what we have. The other thing is the opportunities. You're going to graduate in 4 years. You're going to get a chance to study abroad. You're going to get an internship. And then from there's probably going to be 2 other things that you do great. So those are some of the things that we really try to sell that maximizes the student athlete approach. We want them to be great players. We want them to be great people. And to do that, you have to have multiple situations that you're put in where you're going to succeed and fail.
And
Now,
go ahead.
Oh, but as far as our camp and as far as our program and stuff, I've been here 20 years. I graduated from here. So when I speak from the heart. I'm a Disney guy, so we're always trying to make magic happen. And I'm also a person that has got to be very, very set to the T on how things are run. And so, like the indoor 3-on-3, one coach came up and was like, "This is a well-oiled machine." I was like, "Yeah, it needs to be because you can't have chaos."
Yeah.
The other thing, though, is we're trying to showcase this campus, and high school coaches come and experience Center for the first time, and they're amazed at the dining facilities, the dorms, how close the fields are. Walking, it's 5 minutes. We bring in DJs at night. We have lip sync contests. We try to make it a fun environment where your players are going to grow together instead of grow apart.
That's awesome, Coach. And then final question for you. Give us a little sneak peek for our listeners of the 2024 Center women's soccer team.
Okay. It is going to be a sneak peek for sure. We say goodbye to 6 or 7 starters from last year's team
Oh, wow.
And they were so neat to coach, and their families were amazing. Embraced the culture, there to support, loud at away trips. Absolutely loved the senior group. Now, what that means is opportunity. We're bringing in arguably the best class that we've ever recruited.
Oh, wow.
The speed, the size, the talent. It should be fun. I do think it's going to be a different year as far as we may see 3 or 4 freshmen break into a lineup at some point and really show some freshman pride. So the future is very, very good, but we don't ever want to take a step back. We want to get back to the NCAA tournament, which is always our goal. So,
Coach, we appreciate you so much. You are,
right.
like I said, we had your assistant on several months ago, Coach Tripp, and Coach Tripp has actually run camps for both of us when he was at Morehead State and then when he was at Findlay, Ohio. So he has been really good to us. And then so I told Dunham after I left the field, I said, I said, Coach Hoffman and I sat and talked on the sideline quite a bit. I was like, I'm going to reach out and see if we can't keep this ACE football center college connection going. So we really appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy this. I hope if we reached one player that just kind of put a different viewpoint in it, then we won. We want to get away from the Fleetwood Mac song that says players only love you when they're playing. We want to get away from that, and we want to basically kind of get to the point where we're all doing this and we're all fighting for that same goal, and that's to win a district. To
Absolutely.
Win a region.
And my biggest takeaway, I don't know about you, Coach, but my biggest takeaway from this entire conversation, Coach, I teach elementary school as well, and the fact that you said you were a second grade teacher and you were wearing a tie baffles my brain.
I did. However, I knew not to wear light colored short or pants on Wednesdays and Fridays. Friday was always pizza day, and Wednesday was always like spaghetti day. And those kids would come in for a hug, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, wipe your mouth!" It's just so it would just be all over your shirt and all that. I'm like, no, this isn't gonna. So
Absolutely.
Wednesdays and Fridays anyway. But good for you. That's awesome that you're in the education.
Coach, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening. Once again, this is the ACE Football Academy. We are brought to you by the A&C Car Wash, locally owned and operated here in Richmond, Kentucky. Please make sure you go see them for all your car washing needs. Coach Hamilton, I'm Coach Hamilton. Coach Hamilton, Coach Dunham, Coach Hoffman. This has been the ACE Football Academy. Go kick some ACE.